Hi folks, back to our video series on health and safety. One of the biggest challenges for occupational health and safety in Canada is alcoholism and substance abuse. We talked about this a little bit when we talked about drug testing and that and the like very early on in the course, and whether or not those things can be done for people in the workplace. But we're talking here specifically about any kind of substance abuse, which includes alcohol. It's a big reason why people are away from work. Certainly if you suffer from these kinds of addictions, it can reduce your productivity. It can lead to addiction, which is an illness, and of course even illegal activities. So employers always have to make sure that they honor an employee's right to privacy, so they can't pry and ask you if you're, drinking or, abusing drugs in the workplace, or say, for example, you come to work drunk or after binging on drugs or alcohol, anything, right? So the employer has to be careful how they find out about those things too. They can't just come up and ask you and then expect you to answer, right? So you have to make sure that you temper the employee's right to privacy with the human right laws that are out there. So testing is only legal in the work environment if it can be rationally connected to job performance. So in other words, we can have a strong connection between you drinking and doing drugs, and we can only test you if we think, not just if we suspect you of it, but we have to make sure that if you are under the influence while you're at work, it's going to be connected to your performance of the job, and most companies can make that case. Testing is legal if the test is adopted in an honest and good faith belief that it's necessary for fulfillment of a work-related purpose. So again, we want to make sure, say for example, that before we put a bus driver on a bus, driving a bus, we're going to have people that, they are drug free. So sometimes companies do drug testing or substance abuse testing to make sure that they're fit for duty, because if they weren't and they had an accident, they could kill people, right? And reasonably necessary to the accomplishment of the work-related purpose. So clearly, I think bullet point 1 and 3 would be obvious. But again, to make sure that they can faithfully discharge their work-related purpose is really important, because you don't want to be endangering the lives of innocent people. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit here also about keeping your workplace safe, about the whole concept of violence at work. Clearly, if you do have managers that are violent or coworkers or peers that are violent, that can make for a very stressful job environment. So health and safety legislation covers bullying, harassment, and also violence at work. So human rights does prohibit forms of harassment and bullying, and all companies, as we said in a much earlier chapter, should have a policy on harassment and bullying and how to handle those things in your work environment. If they don't, an employer can be liable on the basis of negligence if people are harassed, and sometimes people are harassed and bullied to the point that they can't even return to the workplace. So they're off work, they suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, job stress, just overall stress, because they can't earn a living, they can't come to work. What do? And if the employer is seen to be not dealing with it, they can be charged and fined because they're liable, because they neglected to do anything to support employees. Maybe they don't have policies and they haven't responded to violent acts. So it's very important that employers have policies and that they do respond to violent acts when they know that they're happening. But there's also a duty, don't forget, for employees to report it. So you should always make sure that in your workplace you have a policy on harassment, violence in the workplace, and bullying, and you know what you as an employer is supposed to do to report that. Okay? Now, if we want to talk a little bit more about workplace violence, we're going to do that in the next video, because I have a few points here in this slide that I want to bring to your attention, because it's very happy. Some of the statistics are quite alarming.